As we continue the discussion on the wildfires and the smoke produced from these fires, I got the opportunity to sit down with Dr. Albert Rizzo from the American Lung Association to ask him his thoughts on how this can affect us and how long this possibly could last. Take a look. How will this smoke from the Canadian wildfires, as it progresses towards us in the U.S., potentially harm us as we breathe in that air?
Yeah, well, the main part of the smoke and wildfires are these small particles called PM 2.5. Those are the main ones that the EPA measures on a regular basis to give us an index of how our air quality is. So we all have some baseline amount of particulate matter and ozone that makes up our air quality. What happens with the wildfires, such as the ones in Canada, much more of the particulate matter is increased in the air, and that's what jumps the air quality index from might be normally a green or yellow, mild, moderate, up into the areas that we're concerned about now, orange, red, purple, and maroon, where the inhalation of that level of particulate matter is not healthy for anybody, let alone those who already have some kind of chronic disease, because these small particles are inhaled into the lung. They lead to inflammation in the airways and precipitate cough, wheezing, shortness of breath, chest discomfort, especially in those who are already predisposed to a lung condition.
And speaking of those that have respiratory problems or special, infants or the elderly, what type of advice would you give them when dealing with something like this?
Yeah. Well, the easiest advice may not always be able to be followed is to stay out of the outdoors. Stay indoors as much as possible. Minimize the amount of time you have to go out. If you have to go out, wear a protective N95 mask that fits properly. And again, despite having that on, limit the amount of time you're outdoors. Also, if you are somebody with a lung disease, make sure you have adequate supply of your medications, the rescue inhalers that are often needed by people with asthma or COPD. And individuals with heart disease are also at risk, so they need to be aware of that as well to minimize their exposure outdoors. Children, because they tend to play outdoors and run around, they get exposed to the particulate matter even more because of that activity. So keeping them in on days like that is important, along with the elderly and actually some pregnant women as well.
Okay, thank you. And what about, do you have any idea of pets? Obviously in times like this, it's hard to not take their animals outside. Do you know if that could have the same effect on them as well?
Well, they breathe in the air that we do, and they have eyes that have irritation when particles are in them. So as I'm not a veterinarian, so that's a disclaimer, but I would say that having pets outdoors a lot during this type of air quality is not helping them. So I would minimize the amount of time they have to be out walking. That also minimizes the amount of time you have to be out walking. So I would just be attuned to their symptoms and certainly check with your vet if you think there's some issues.
Awesome. And then last one for you, and we'll get you out of here. How can we protect ourselves even in our homes from the negative effects of this smoke?
Sure. Well, every home can't be as tight as we'd like it to be, but keeping the doors and windows shut. Have an air conditioning system, put it on recirculate so you don't bring the outside air in. If you have the ability to have a HEPA filter indoors, that can help as well. Even some bathroom fans bring outside air in, so try to minimize the use of that. And while you're indoors, also don't add to the indoor pollution by, firewood burning or smoking or, frying foods. All those things increase the amount of particulate matter indoors. So that's just one more factor to try and minimize it, especially when we're having outside activities and air quality like it is now.